What's up? Oak Life Familia, what's poppin'? Chris and Greg and Chris, back at it again with returning R&B. This is good. Today, we're talking about sabbatical updates. We're talking about the last 3 months. We're going to have a lot to talk about. So without further ado,
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I get crazy when the mic round. No sense of getting hyped now. But
I don't know about you, man, but I missed that intro. That was dope. Anyway, yeah, man. So now that we're back, it's been a long time. Shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to. Um, Let us know, how are you doing first and foremost, Chris? How you feel after being gone for a significant amount of time?
It's good to be back. No, it feels good. I missed the normal patterns. I missed people, but it was a really unique gift to have that space off. And also, I think it's probably good for the church too, like to have me gone. I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What would you say? I'm going to kind of treat this like an extended Human Evoke Life, right? So, you know the deal. There's like, what's like the biggest thing that was like the best takeaway of it? What was something that was kind of a struggle while you spent this time away? And then what was something that like, oh, now that you're back, you're looking forward to doing A, B, C, X, Y, Z, right? Let's start with that first thing. What is the biggest takeaway after spending your time in sabbatical? What has been like the biggest takeaway, the best part of it all for you?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Maybe I should backpedal and give
Okay.
some context to what like sabbatical, the heart behind it,
Mhm.
and that'll give me a chance to think through how to answer, because there's so many. It's 3 months, so
Yeah.
I don't really have one takeaway. I've probably got a bunch of stuff, but so sabbatical being this idea of intentional Sabbath for a prolonged period of time. A lot of churches and denominations practice this, and we had it structured that at about year 7 of being full-time pastoring at Oak Life, our staff gets a sabbatical. So hopefully you'll be having one soon too. And that's kind of the idea. And initially I had this tension of, this feels like a really unique privilege and gift that a lot of my friends don't get. And it felt like kind of a benefit, but pretty quickly it flipped to, oh, this should be like a requirement of the job, that there's this time for you to go away to decompress, to get some education, to spiritually reconnect. And so that's kind of what we did. And we're, in some ways, I'm glad that we're kind of in pandemic, because it made everything easier. And as far as like, we're not meeting in person, everything's remote. But takeaways are like high points. Spending time with family. We have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and getting a chance to really just do nothing but hang out with them and go to the beach. We stayed in Oregon for like a chunk of time, and on the coast. So getting a chance to just be with family was a gift. And then spiritually, like definitely kind of remembering, it's like cheesy language. It's always hard for me to talk about like it's often hard to talk about faith stuff, because it's been talked about so often inauthentically, or it's been forced. And so a lot of the words are like, I struggle with, that we've used before. I'm like, yeah, but it means something more than how they used it back then. But
Yeah.
Feeling very connected to God, to God's presence, lots of times, especially in nature. And having this sense of gratitude around that, even though still being a parent while we're on sabbatical meant that it's still tiring and exhausting. Even when you're not working, you're still kind of responsible to a lot of stuff. So just to give a quick overview, there are 3 months. The first month, we did a couple trips, and a lot of my time was spent in reflection. I read through all my journals, which was kind of fun and weird and awkward and good. And then we spent a month in Oregon on the coast, and that was mostly just family time. And then there was another month of took this class, and spent time with family and kind of recapped and did some more reflection on my life, calling, and going back into ministry. I think that's. I don't think there's any other significant highlights.
That's good. That's good. I wanna go back before we move too far past it. There's two things you mentioned. You mentioned reading through old journals and kind of reflecting on calling. So I like those. I'm gonna pick on you a little bit. What was the most awkward, cringe-worthy thing that you read through that you're willing to share in one of your older journals?
It's good. Good question.
Yeah, man.
Processing. So I started. This is like when I'm like 18. It was when I generally started writing thoughts down in the morning. The space of being single and getting crushes on people and dating, and how that was spiritualized or like made spiritual or attempted to be. So like praying for things, but like, God, if it's your will kind of framework, like really like this chick, but I don't know, you're first, Jesus, like that kind of language, which I think is, if I'm looking at myself as a different person, I'm like, oh, that's really cute, but also, somewhat problematic, but also just, I think reflective of the age I was in. Maybe that stuff. Definitely had a different way of talking about and understanding my faith back then.
Yeah.
Early on, it was more fervent, but narrow and simple. And now I think it's more, I don't know, real. Well, it's not less real. It's that young idealism, which we talk about with young people. I lived through. I think a lot of us lived through. And now it feels more sentimental and slow, less pressure. There was like a lot of urgency in my faith early on. I was reading that stuff. Also, like some of the stuff I struggle with now, I struggle with 20 years ago, and it's the same.
Yeah.
And so there's some acceptance around, like, okay, these are parts of me, instead of trying to like cover them up or pretend like they're not there, or try to get rid of them, seeing them as just a part of me and accepting who I am. So there's probably a lot of we're about to enter this identity series, probably a lot of identity thoughts and lessons there, like, who am I? That's the answer.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We did what is it, Mortified? We should have another Mortified before we go into the identity series. That'll be hilarious.
For those that don't know, Mortified is a live performance where people read their journals, their childhood journals usually, and we did an Oak Life version, and I think people loved it. I don't think my journals would be coherent or entertaining at all. Like, it'd be like, it wouldn't even be awkward or ironic. It just maybe a little bit of ironic, but I don't think it'd be entertaining. I don't think it would be entertaining at all.
Not for you, but probably for everybody else.
I don't think so. Like, a lot of my journals were like, yesterday I journaled, and then I went to work, and then I ate Subway, and then I didn't do my work, and I was lazy. Sorry, God. Help me do better today. Like, it's pretty mundane.
All right. Continue to dumb it down, man. That's all right. I'll accept that. I'll allow that for today. So fast forward, you had mentioned that you spent a lot of time reflecting on calling. Now, 7 years ago, talk about being idealistic and fervent. I can hardly say that word. How much has your sense of calling changed, stayed the same now, as opposed to 7 years ago when we started this whole Oak Life journey?
Well, I think there was a sense of urgency around helping a community form in Oak Life, and now that it's formed, I think that urgency isn't as there. Like, there isn't something we have to go do as much as we have to continue to be faithful to. It's a different sense. I think I shared with you one of the images that came up was this idea of a boat being built, and we've been building this boat, and it's built, and there's this community, this amazing, beautiful, diverse, miraculous, like divine community, And so now we get to go ride that like out to the sea and see what happens next and go on an adventure. But you don't have to. You can
Right.
also like, oh, we built it and then um, we did our part, just pass it on to the next
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So there's those images were playing around in my head a lot. But
Hmm.
as far as calling, the urgency piece, getting it going, isn't there anymore. I don't really
Yeah.
have like a tug to like go build something as much as be like faithful to the thing that's built
Hmm.
and love it well. Um,
Hmm.
but and then the idea of the one piece that did pop up was a significant thing that changed my life in that time period and yours too is becoming a parent or a father
Hmm.
and seeing how that slips into calling and how I see my purpose in life. And I think if I'm honest, that in my head, not practically like in my time, but in my head, I think I saw myself first as like a pastor before a father, like just because that's the order it happened. And I'm used to
Yeah.
seeing, and I don't even like the word pastor, like most people know that, but I've come to terms with what it means for me. Um, and so I those things became integrated at some point during the sabbatical, like, or at least the invitation to see them as not separate, but like the better you are at being a parent or a father and claiming that for how you feel like you're supposed to do it, the better you are, you'll be at pastoring and vice versa. That they're
Hmm.
not. I mean, my kids are higher priority than my job, but in terms of the flow of me in the world, they're not like separate. That was
Right.
kind of cool.
That's dope, man. That's
Yeah.
that's a big change. Big
Yeah.
change. I like the imagery of the building because there's a implicit goal in mind when building things. For those who have spent any time behind the scenes at Oak Life, you've probably heard me talk about my recent '88 Honda hatchback rebuild project car, and like I
Cool
could tell
car.
you right now that thank you, man. Building it, I'm building it for the sake of enjoying it versus building it to then sell it. And I think sometimes when people put so much energy into a community, it could be potentially for the sake of building the community and then handing it off. They just want to build versus building the community to have something to set sail on and enjoy together. And it sounds like it's the latter for you. It sounds like the building wasn't for the sake of building alone, but to establish a community and be a part of it and see where the journey takes you. Does that sound about right from what you're saying?
As I understand it now, yeah. And
Yeah,
I try to hold that stuff loosely, like,
of course.
and ultimately, like, there's a lot out of my control there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a sense of invitation that we get to as a community go see what's out there, um, and do it together. And there'll be storms, there'll be new terrain, new things that we'll explore. Things will come up in the world, and we get to do that together. That sounds kind of fun, and at least um, the image that came to me as I was trying to think through this spot in my life at the moment. Um,
Should I play Oceans right now? Like
mhm.
behind you, underneath you talking right now?
No, thanks. Uh, yeah, a couple other just highlight things before I want to flip it and ask you how it's been for you. And I think it'd be fun for people to know this or to like think about doing it for themselves. But I got to go to a monastery for a few days, like a silent
Mm.
monastery with a bunch of monks in Big Sur, and anybody can go there. Like it's not that expensive too. It's kind of a drive. It's very boring, intentionally so. But there, that's kind of when some of those images were popping up, where I was just sitting in a room by myself, and it was foggy. I was hoping to have a better view because it has like a stunning view of the ocean. Um, but those sorts of images are coming to mind, and so like what a gift, right? To given the work that we do with some sort of um, spiritual responsibility to a community, uh, like to have a space to find your own connection and sense of calling, vocation. I also read a whole bunch of books during that time.
Mm.
Like, it was nice to not have to read and write for sermons, which takes if like the creative juices, you've got a limited amount in any given week. And if half the weeks or 3/4 of the weeks, there's some sort of thing you get to create, which I really like. I'll enjoy doing sermons. I don't need to do it. But it's kind of a fun process. But not having that allowed me to read and write and draw and get my inner emo kid on. And yeah, that's good.
That's what's up, man. That's
yeah.
what's up.
Yeah, and if anybody wants, I just kind of did a personal recap for my own remembrance on my blog, which I don't keep that often, but if anybody wants to look at it, you can check it out. But how is it for you? And
Up. Not yet. Before you switch it back to me, one more question. Oh. Now that you're back, what is the thing that you're looking forward to the most? And you can't cop out with just hanging out with people, because of course everybody wants to hang out with people, but specifically for you, what is it? What's drawing some excitement? What are you looking forward to doing and being a part of, outside of just hanging out with the people you love and miss?
Well, that would be legitimately the thing, like seeing people. I saw somebody just before this that had, a lot of us haven't seen each other in person in a year and a half.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So what a gift.
Yeah.
But so that is the thing. But if you're not going to let me use that one, I will say the last Sunday I went to a friend's church, Bethel Fellowship in San Leandro. Pastor Aruna Kim Eubanks and Michael Kim Eubanks.
Yep.
And was just like a weepy mess during church, because it was so special to be together, to sing together, and to there's something about it. There's like, and not everybody needs it. Maybe it's like it's not for everybody. But coming to terms with the fact that I really love church. Like I really love not the bullshit, not the performance. And every organization is just broken people running it, so that's always going to be there. But the simplicity of like a group of people longing for the divine together, kind of borrowing the words of those who have come before us, the practices, the traditions, and trying to know one another and be good in the world together. And so like Michael was doing these songs, and we're all wearing masks and spaced out, and it's awkward, but it's still like, holy shit, I really, really missed this. I really missed being with people and singing together, and it being not just like a social event, but pointing to some like the transcendent, the beyond.
Yeah.
And that like we can collectively do good together. Like, so all the potential of it, and the simplicity of it. Like there were, like I said, 30, 40 people in the room. So I'm really looking forward to doing that again with the people that we've been doing it for so long with. And new people and whoever is a part of it. But the thought of, I think it came up yesterday, I was driving home from something and thinking about the outdoor event we're planning, like the first in-person church service in a year and a half at Heist. I was like, damn, this is going to be, I don't know what my emotions are going to be that day, but I think I'll be very, very grateful to be together again. For whoever can make it. And so I'm looking forward to being together. And I think it's going to be awkward for a while. I'm hoping we can go back to the new Parkway. We're like in contract talks and probably going to send them money soon. So hopefully that'll happen in October, but I don't know. Who knows what the future holds.
Right.
Okay.
That's good, man. That's good, man. I'm hoping for a weepy mess. I'm hoping that's the that's the vibe. I mean, I'm no Michael Kim Eubanks, but it should be an awesome time. I'm very, very much looking forward to it.
Yep. Yeah. You've got me weepy multiple times singing.
No, but Michael, bro, that's another conversation for another time. He's awesome. Lots of love for their community. We should do some more partnerships in the future. But you wanted to ping pong it back to me, so
did I get all your questions? I don't want to avoid anything.
Yeah, you did.
So part of like my philosophy of sabbatical that I've become more convicted around, like initially it's like, it's a good idea. Now I'm like, this is something that has to happen. Part of that isn't just that it's good for the person and the family who has that intentional time, but it's also good for the community. Like what we're seeing, there's this podcast that came out that talks about Mark Driscoll, for those of you who know that person is. And one of the issues that they talk about in that podcast is how communities and churches can be built around one person's ego and personality so quickly, both because narcissists often like being upfront, but also because we don't know it and we don't know how to deal with it, but we like to follow narcissists. Like, people like a savior. We want a king. And the idea of sabbatical, not just for that person, but for the church, they're like, oh, this thing isn't this one person's community. This is beyond that. It's us. It's like somehow mystically God with us, leading us, organizing us, making this a body. And so I really think it's good for other leaders, for the community, for everything, to have that space. And I feel pretty strongly about that, even though it probably comes with some challenges practically to plan stuff and
Yeah.
some unknowns. Like, I think we had a couple little like things that you all dealt with, but how was it, me being gone? The greatest thing that ever happened to Oak Life was
Yo, it was the best, man. It was the best, man.
But for you personally, like, what was it like? You know, you've been ordained through Oak Life. You're currently in seminary. Also somewhat reluctant to use terms like pastor, but Pastor Greg, how was it leading our church in that time, holding that space together, and how was it for you?
Yeah, it was different. On some, that's the simplest way, and that's probably the most obvious way. It was different. Some aspects of it was easier, because things were we had a sermon series that was 3 months long, which we've never done before, to commit to something like that. So in doing so, it made the planning and the flow of Sunday so much more easier. To your point of us being remote, there was less community event planning and things of that nature. So it was more consistent than we've ever been before. And as a person with my personality, consistency is always like, yes, give me more of that stuff, more of the stuff that's expected, right? So in that regard, it was pretty chill. On the other hand, there were a couple of monkey wrenches thrown into the flow of things, more behind the scenes, less about Sunday, but just day-to-day, week-to-week Oak Life stuff. So I had to exercise some muscles that I don't often exercise. And I remember the first time the leadership team asked a question, and I couldn't just say, all right, well, I'll wait for Chris to answer. I couldn't do that. So it was interesting, right? It was interesting to realize how much our partnership is a partnership, right? So yeah, it was fun. It was a good learning experience. Definitely something that I think, to your point, not just being good for the person on sabbatical, but good for the community to kind of find out, how much they're a part of the process. I know that the leadership team and the volunteer team, and like, it's so many dope individuals. Like, I cannot take credit. Like, people are like, hey, yeah, Chris is gone, you're running the ship or whatever the case is. It's like, not really. I mean, we've established a squad of individuals to do this. So I didn't feel like I was carrying too much of the responsibility in that regard, because we have amazing people. So that part was cool. I think maybe underneath some of the tasks, there's a sense of stress that all of us have endured over the past several months. And just knowing that on top of life, on top of unknowns around leading Oak Life, I'm tired. I'll say that. I definitely am tired. But I think that's part of the journey. I think that's part of the process. That's part of any relationship. So I'm very, very appreciative and thankful for it all. And I got to see a lot more of what you have to do that I may have not had the clearest perspective on. So there's a lot of appreciation for you in that as well.
And likewise. And the person I was with just before this was talking about how you're. It's true, we have an awesome community, but there's the responsibility that you maintained and you did good. And they were talking about your presence, like, well, like the way you lead us is like very invitational and casual, and people feel safe to enter into it. And I think you're better at it than you probably think you are. Um, yeah, and that's cool to hear. And thank you, man. Thank you. And also, I should say thanks to Dev for leading that series, like jumping into that. Like, we created this weird role. Like, all right, what do we do for 3 months? And in my opinion, you both crushed it. Not without challenges and all learning, but you guys crushed it.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah. What anything you would do differently from your end? Like, what could we have planned better?
Bank stuff. No, I'm playing.
That was one of the snafus. We had thought that Greg was a signer on our account, because I'm the one who, like, we pay a speaker or third Sunday thing or whatever. Like, I'm the one who does a lot of our bank stuff, and finance team oversees it, but I'll send out a check if they need me to. And so Greg had to become a signer, which I guess is a kind of a challenge, more than we initially thought it would be. So sorry.
Yeah,
about that.
super funny. I honestly don't think there's a ton of stuff we could have done differently, because I don't think anything was done poorly. As we transitioned into the nation being opened up before Delta variant, there was a lot of I guess excitement. People were going on vacations, and people were hanging out with their friends and playing tennis and doing a bunch of in-person things. So Sunday participation started to take a little dip, but I think that's appropriate. I think that's respectable. Perhaps maybe we could have foreseen, you know what I'm saying? It's like weird, but maybe put together some more energy around gatherings. But with how everything is panned out, maybe it's good we didn't. So yeah, I default to saying I don't think there's anything we could have done significantly different or better. I think as a squad, we all did pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, and I think setting low expectations during this season, like, especially because we've been talking about this, it's going to be, the next few months will be a bunch of experiments and probably a bunch of work. And so focusing on what that might look like rather than this. Because, yeah, lots of people did what we did. My family did. It's like, oh, it's a summer. We can, after a year of chaos, let's take a year to chill. Or a year. Let's take a time, a couple weeks, a month, or whatever. So I think a ton of people were in that boat. And, dude, how much would we be at church every Sunday, like you and I, if we weren't employed by the church and like responsible to it? Like, if I'm honest, screen fatigue is no joke. Even though I love my community, none of us thought we'd be doing this long. I'm grateful we have the space, and holy crap, how many people are still like making this thing happen and leaning into community is amazing. But I just think we need to give ourselves permission to do what we got to do. And we're in a good place coming out of this, I think, thankfully.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I asked this in the one we did right beforehand, but if you were to go on sabbatical, I was like, Greg, in 2022, you can take 12 weeks. You can do it all together. You can break it up, but I would recommend doing it all together. But if you, what would you do? What types of things do you feel like your soul needs? And in particular, with regards to being spiritually responsible to the community. And your mom agrees. Thank you.
Oh, she's the boss. Realistically, or like just in general, like if I could do anything, sky's the limit. This is a fake question.
Let's do sky's the limit, and then
I would want to go to like a jiu-jitsu camp somewhere I'd want to do it in Japan. Different from Brazil. I'm not going to get into the background between the two, but That would be freaking amazing. Something that's completely unknown, but it's something I love. I get to work on the mind and the body and the spirit together. Oh man, that's what I would do. 12 weeks, come back a new man. Hands down, that's what I would do. Sky's the limit.
Nice.
More realistically, I think I'd want to do the monastery thing like you did. Because I think just that time in such an environment, oh man, I think that'd be really good. And not to continue to bite on your swag, but family trip as well, because I know that right now where Willow is in her life, and oh man, like she just took her. I mentioned earlier, she just took her first steps yesterday, and it's just really pivotal time, and just to enjoy that free of distraction, that'd be dope. So I'd probably just essentially, without the specifics of like Oregon or whatever the case is, I'd probably just do what you did.
I borrowed from other people's advice, so you'd be like, especially if you do 3 months together, like structuring it in 3 different sections and slightly different focuses.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu. If you could do like I guess martial arts is inherently spiritual, and it's like ethos,
very much.
Some sort of like pastors. No, jiu-jitsu. That'd probably be picturing the pastors who would go to that, and but some sort of like contemplative jiu-jitsu retreat, I think would be crazy. You probably couldn't do that at the monastery I went to. The brothers would not know what to do with you.
No, not them, but I guarantee there's some other monks. I mean, so the origin of jiu-jitsu is Japanese, and it was practiced by the samurai warrior that was required to do poetry and calligraphy for things such as spiritual enlightenment and gentleness. And it's not this macho concept that a lot of people think of when they think of martial arts. So, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing to do something like that. But anyway, I digress.
It's good. Well, that's probably enough of a recap. Anything else about Sabbatical? Well,
don't break the chair, man.
It's like, what does this button do? Oh yeah,
right.
Duh.
No, I think we're good, man. I think this is pretty good. Do we have? I got a question that I know is on everyone's mind right now. Is Roots and Branches coming back? Is this kind of a one-off? Like, what can all of our fans of the show expect in the coming months?
You tell me. I don't know. We haven't figured that one out yet. What we're gonna do? I think our focus has been on trying to think through what it looks like to meet in person and online, like have some sort of hybrid. So that'll be the focus of kind of getting that together. But yeah, this is easy enough. I assume this will be back in some fashion, maybe not at the same time or frequency, but something.
Cool.
And I'll say this just to close up the Sabbatical convo. There are parts of the rest that I didn't know I needed. Like I was like, and I didn't know until I was doing it. Like, I needed to be bored and to delete Facebook. And and what that did over time. And I know it's like a huge gift to have an extended time off, like what I just experienced, but I think it's worth it if you're able to. We've all been like through a very, it's like low grade, slow trauma, mixed in with grief and anxiety, and there's still that floating around with the pandemic and just what the world's gone through, and probably will go through next. But I hope we could all build in sabbatical practices into our lives, because you probably don't know how much you need it, and helps us all be better at what we do in funds and families and communities. So we need each other to be our best, healthiest selves. So if you want ideas, I can give you ideas for how to go rest. But some people need to quit their jobs. I know a couple people those. Some people need to take a weekend off, or on vacation, and not bring your phone. Not answer work emails. Yeah,
man. I wish there was like a book that talked about. I wish there was a book that talked about like sabbatical practices or something like that. That'd be pretty awesome. Obviously, I'm.
That's a joke. Yeah,
I'm joking. Being facetious, my man. But yeah, it's necessary. It makes sense why there was such an emphasis around this idea of rest. I mean, some could argue that one of the founding principles of the book of Genesis was to highlight such a message that rest is needed and our value is not in our work and what we do. So yeah, just trusting that rest is something that is available to us all. Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Definitely. But man, that's all I got, bro. So you got any closing words before you close us out?
No, those you had the last word there. That was good.
Sweet. All right, brother. Well, you know what to do.
Push
All right,
the
Oak Life
button.
Familia. Peace out. So wait, not the button. First it's the video, then it's the button.
Push the button to the video.
I ain't got a hope.
I ain't got a hope.